All right, so let's talk about doors. Let's model some doors. So I'm gonna be showing you guys how to model very simple door, and in the end of the video I'm gonna be showing you how to rig it so you can reuse it later on in your projects, open them, close them, animate them, whatever you want to do with them, right? So it's just gonna be easier to close and open, because sometimes you're modeling bigger projects and some doors are gonna have to be closed and some gonna be open, and you want to manipulate that in a very easy way. So all right, so first things first, I'm working in centimeters in display and centimeters in the system, right? So really straight out of the bat, let's model first a box. So we're blocking out the door, right? So I'm going to be modeling a standard door. So it's going to be a more of a European standard internal door. This is not going to be by all means a very expensive luxury thick high door. This is just going to be a simple door, right? So first things first, the height 210. The width, let's go for now with 1 meter, okay, because that is usually the case with the frame. So I'm modeling the door inside of the frame, so this is going to be the edge of the frame, edge of the frame, edge of the frame, right? So I'm not going to extend anymore. So this is going to be 1 meter with the frames, and the length is going to be 15 centimeters, right? So usually internal apartment internal walls usually is going to be like 10 centimeters, right? That is the case. So 10, I'm going to put it there. I'm going to move it there. So as you can see, the door is going to be 15. That's your wall. And then you're going to be running a skirting there and a skirting there, right? So the skirting can be up to 1.5 or something like that, right? It depends, obviously, what is the skirting like. So I'm just going to leave this and I'm going to keep the door for now. So I'm going to move this to 0, tab, 0, enter, right? So that is the door, 15, 100, and 210, all right? So the next thing I'm gonna do is apply editable poly, or you can use the shortcut that you have here. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start creating a frame for a door, right? So let's just say it can vary from 8 centimeters to 10 centimeters, but for this tutorial I'm gonna use 8. So roughly like that. So I'm gonna press OK. I'm gonna press Ctrl Shift. That's the shortcut to copy an element, sorry, a polygon in Max 21. 18, you only have to use Shift, that's it. So clone to objects, press OK, that's fine. And I'm gonna pick the same polys, right? So you click, you press Shift, sorry, you press Ctrl, not Shift, and you press Bridge. All right, so I just bridged the door. The next thing you want to do is you want to delete the bottom bit. You want to select the border, cap it, select the vertices, or you can use 1, 2, and 3 keys and just drop it down to Z and just type here 0, right? Cool. So the next thing you want to do is you can pick this part, because don't be afraid to keep dummies in your scene or to create dummies in your scene, just to easen up your modeling. So for example, now we're going to be modeling a door stop, right? So soon you're going to see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to inset maybe 1.5 centimeters, right? And I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete the bottom bit. I'm just going to disable the grid for now, and I'm going to put this to these 4 vertices. I'm gonna put to Z, and I'm gonna put to 0, right? The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna choose this element and I'm gonna just detach it, right? Cool. So next I'm gonna centralize the origin. There we go. And I don't know, I'm gonna put this at 3 centimeters. Okay, there we go, 3 centimeters. That's perfectly fine. I'm gonna collapse it because there's no point of keeping me. All right, so we have a door stop, we have a door frame. We're gonna finalize this a little bit later, but for now we're just blocking the model, right? So the next thing you want to do is create a door, right? So the door thickness should be, let's just say internal doors around from 3 to 4 centimeters. So for this tutorial, we're going to keep it at 4 thickness, and let's just add 50-50 for now because that doesn't really matter. So the door is going to be here in front, not in the back for this tutorial. And I'm just going to activate the Y axis constraints, and I'm just going to snap this to there, so it's going to be in one line, and I'm just going to offset it a little bit, right? So you want to have some kind of a gap between the doors. You don't want to, you know, model the doors like that flushed. You kind of want to, you know, keep it as realistic as possible. So I'm going to select the vertices here, and I'm going to move to there. And the next thing I want to do is move here. Maybe I'm going to go to the front view, disable that, F3, F4. And I'm going to move it somewhere here. Right, so I just changed the projection to the front, so F, letter F, and I'm just gonna move it there, right? So P, perspective, there we go. So another very important thing, never ever leave the door flush to the floor, because you're gonna be adding tiles, whatever, and even in reality, builders usually leave like 2 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters of a gap between the door bottom and the floor, and the concrete floor, because usually, you know, people are adding thick carpets, tiles, you know, hardwood flooring that's gonna be like 1.5, 2 centimeters, etc. It depends, you know, from the quality, how expensive it is, how thick it is. So you kind of want to leave this, you know, a gap here, even for in a 3D world, right? Obviously you can amend everything, you know, extrude the vertices down, up, it doesn't really matter. This is, you know, a 3D world. You can manipulate in any way you want. This is not reality, right? In reality, you're not gonna take the door frame and stretch it down or up, right? That's, guys, it's not working like that. All right, so let's continue with the with this tutorial. All right, so we have a door. The door looks already amazing, and literally the tutorial is kind of finished. I'm joking. Yes, I'm thinking what to do next. Yes, forgot about it. So let's polish the door frame a little bit. So isolate the door frame, select the polygon, and detach the bottom, sorry, the top bit. So whenever you're gonna detach it, attach it again back, right click, border. We're gonna select the borders there, and we're gonna cap it. There we go. So if I'm gonna choose the element now, it's gonna be a separate element that it's capped, right? So I'm gonna Control Z. So we're gonna do the same thing with this small guy. So we're just gonna convert this to polygon. We are gonna detach the top bit, and we are going to attach it again, and we're gonna choose the border, select the top borders, and cap, right? So pretty much that is it. So for the top view, if you go to the top view, now you need to push this a little bit down, leave a small gap in between the door and the door stop, right? There we go. So the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna select this door frame, and I'm gonna add chamfer modifier, and I'm gonna put, so settings by default here should work perfectly fine. So I'm just gonna extrude this a little bit just to see it a little bit better. So I'm gonna choose maybe 0.15, maybe 0.2 for this thick door frame, and I'm gonna choose smooth to here, and just double check that. I'm not really happy with the segments. I'm gonna add a little bit more segments. There we go. So I think that is perfectly fine for the internal door, the quality like that. I wouldn't go more than that. Sometimes you can get away with one segment here. So, and these are obviously the settings that you see. Nothing really, I didn't really change anything. Just make sure that the edges are round, right? So for example, the depth, I think the depth is controlling that. Let's just check it out. Yeah, there we go. So if I'm gonna go 0, it's gonna be flat on an angle. 1, it's gonna make literally 45 degrees, and 0.5 is gonna make round. So just a side note. All right, so we have this created already, and we're gonna do the same thing. So what you can do not collapse this for now. We will collapse this later on because we don't really need any modifiers on this one. So I'm gonna literally just click and drag and drop there. All right, so as you can see, this piece is very small. right? And we need to add less for the amount, so 0.1, 0.06. All right, so because the detail is so small, we can get away with one segment easily, right? There we go. So one segment, it's perfectly fine, and it's a very nice detail to have, because in interior shots you can see the seams, right? Which is, you know, it makes it look more realistic. So that is perfectly fine. All right, so I'm just gonna move this out of the way, and I'm gonna centralize everything, right? Bam, bam, bam. Or you can create a shortcut, but I'm not gonna show you how to do that right now, right? I'm just gonna use the default ones. All right, so we have the door, and the door is very simple. We didn't polish anything, we didn't do anything with the door yet, right? So, all right, so the next thing you want to do is, obviously depends what you want to do. I want to model a handle. So let's model a handle. Goddamn handle. All right, so the handle height by standard is somewhere around 1 meter, right? So what do? Always try to use dummies, right? Bam, bam, bam. Okay, 1 meter. Bam, there you go. So that is your door handle. So the door handle, obviously it depends what is the door handle, but let's just talk standard, right? Standard sizes. So let's just, you know, model a cylinder, press auto grid, and I don't know, just put something like this. This is a very, by the way, simple primitive door. Put one segment here, maybe, I don't know, 60 there, because, you know, you might be standing close, and I think 60 is more than enough. I wouldn't apply any turbo smooth modifiers for now, so let's just centralize this to there we go, and just delete the door for now. And let's just put radius at maybe not 4, I don't know, maybe 2.5. So let's move it somewhere there. I'm literally looking now at my internal door, and it's not big. It's kind of around, because this is a radio, so the diameter is gonna be like 5 centimeters. I think that's more than enough. Let's just do 3. Let's see how it looks. I think, yeah, 3 is gonna be fine. Sometimes you have, you know, you can have million different designs in a door handle, right? So let's just say I'm just gonna add 1 centimeter. I'm just gonna add some detail, very simple detail, right? So let's add something like this. Add another, I don't know, maybe a very small detail like that. Now I'm gonna select the edges, and I'm gonna ring it. Press Control and press on the polygon. Bam. Okay, extrude, press OK, and just drag it a little bit like that, right? And then I'm gonna do is inset a little bit more, something like that. It doesn't really matter, just we're adding a little bit more detail. So double click on a line, hold control, double click on a line. Then we want to add some chamfer, just a tiny bit. Okay, maybe, I think that was fine. Maybe add another, don't think we need another. Nah, we're fine. And just choose here smooth chamfer only. Bam. All right, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna click this guy and chamfer it a little bit more, and we're gonna add, because this is a bigger detail, we need more detail there. So choose the same thing, bam. And what I would recommend, just clicking here and inset a little bit and delete this face, right? So something like that. So keep it like that, that's perfectly fine. And now we need to add a handle. So how can you add a handle? A very simple, we're gonna add a very simple handle. So let's just choose auto grid off, and we're gonna keep something like this. Let's just say we're gonna keep this at 15 centimeters, and we can edit that later on. That's perfectly fine. All right, so the handle is like this for now. What else we could do? Editable spline, press 1, press Ctrl A, right click, and sorry, my bad, corner. So you select all the vertices and you press corner, right? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna just delete these segments for now, and we're gonna select this segment and just move it in the center somewhere there. I think that's the center. So this is that the center? I don't think so. I think is that is the center. Really hard to tell now, just a sec. So let's just move this spline into, sorry, first of all, let's centralize this. Let's just move it to 100. Okay. So that is our spline. That is definitely not the center. So that is the center, as you can see. Let's go to the front view. So that is definitely the center. As you can see, it's a straight line and that's the center. So we are in the perfect center on the y-axis, but we are not. So just move it a little bit and just move it to the x, activate the x, and just snap to that guy there. There we go. We are in the perfect center now. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna apply sweep modifier, and we're gonna choose cylinder, and we're gonna put maybe 1, something like that, right? So that's the handle. Maybe that's a little bit too much. 0.9, that's perfectly fine, and we can choose this one and just move it a little bit shorter, something like that. And also just move it a little bit in, something like this, right? All right, cool. So I think the handle is roughly there. So just to make it a little bit more detailed, what we can do is we can put edible poly modifier. We can inset a little bit here, something like that. Delete the face there. We can add some detail there. We can add some edges as well. So let's just put this like that, and let's just put, sorry, not y, x, just put it somewhere there. And what else would we want to do is we want to put another edge there. Okay, so something like, honestly, what we can do is double click here and chamfer it a little bit, right? So not too much though, just a tiny bit. So there's going to be some kind of a, like a, you know, bendy look there. So let's see how it looks. So I think it should look perfectly fine. All right, so this is not really working, so I'm just gonna go back a little bit. I think we didn't need to remove that guy there, so let me just chamfer that again. All right, so something like that, and maybe one more. Just don't remove this, keep it smooth entire object. All right, bam, there we go. So we have our handle. Another thing is double click there and chamfer a little bit there, maybe 2, and a little bit like that, right? And chamfer only the let's see how it looks. So F4, all right, let's just chamfer the whole thing for now. I think it works well, as long as you have enough edges and detail, right? Or you can say resolution. Okay, so the handle is here. You know, if you want to add like a different material in the middle, you can separate this geometry, but you know, I'm not gonna extend this to that point. I'm trying to model a very simple door here. So I'm just gonna collapse this object because I don't really need to, you know, keep it with all the modifiers there. So the next thing I'm gonna do is literally I'm just gonna mirror it y instance, and I'm just gonna pick the door there, top view, bam, move it a little bit to there and snap it there. And as you can see, I'm gonna choose an element and I'm gonna do the same thing, gonna snap it to there somewhere. Okay, so it should be, so because it's an instance, this guy here should have moved as well. So top view, as you can see, it had moved as well. So that is your, you know, a very simple door handle. Now you could add, this is not going to be a very detailed video, so you could add, you know, the door lock, you could add the door niche where the lock goes in, but so I'm not gonna model that because that's gonna take, you know, time, but you know, you do it once, later on you can reuse it, right? So the next thing that so literally the door is kind of done. I'm just gonna add one more thing, chamfer on the door, and I'm gonna use 0.2. That's more than enough, and I'm gonna chamfers only, right? So bam, there you go. And I think I have I'm just gonna put 2 for now. All right, just I'm gonna delete this geometry here. So this is our door. As you can see, I'm just gonna use clay for now, and this is our very rough door, as you can see, right? So the door is kind of finished, and you can, you know, if you want to, you can group it and reuse it, but this door is not gonna be rigged, right? So if you want to learn how to rig it, continue watching the video and I will show you. All right, cool. So the next thing you want to do is, now you can add hinges if you want to. So that thing would look something like this, right? So I'm gonna add a part, I don't know, a small part there, some height, a cylinder, and I'm gonna add definitely not 30, maybe 26 doesn't really matter too much. Okay, cool. So let's go to the front view, and I'm gonna extend this to, extend it straight, something like, let's see, something like this, right? So I'm gonna move this part over here, and we can duplicate later on the part that we will need to duplicate, right? So I'm gonna add it here, and the next thing I want to add is those hinges, right? So I'm gonna create a box, a very simple, this is a very simple primitive technique, but it works all the time. Okay, so that is fine. We can add, let me check. Okay, so I'm just gonna move this guy here on the bottom. And then we choose edible poly, and I'm gonna move to the top right there, right? So we have something like this. I'm pretty sure you are kind of getting where I'm going with this. So I'm just gonna put this to the middle here somewhere. Don't worry if you're intersecting, this is perfectly fine. So Max is not really afraid of that, unless you do it very wrong. So, all right, so we have our hinges in the way. This is a very primitive hinge. Obviously you can, you know, add detail, start adding detail to the hinge and set a little bit, right? Bum, 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 bum. You know, you can select these edges and chamfer them if you want to. You can even add screws there. You know, I can go on and on and on with this, but for example, I'm just gonna do it very quick. So chamfer 2 times, bam, and I'm just gonna extrude it in a little bit, right? So extrude it a little bit in, nope, wrong way. Yes, something like that, and just up a little bit like that, right? All right, so this is definitely wrong. I don't know why did I screw this up, but let me just go back a little bit. There we go. So Control Z, and we're just gonna try this again. Sorry, extrude. So minus. I'm not sure why is it selecting. Come on, man, work with me. All right, so I'm just gonna select this guy again. Connect 2 times. Yes, there we go, and then chamfer it. Maybe not chamfer it, extrude it, and just go inside. Just a little bit, something like that, and extrude up like that, and press OK. There we go. So you kind of see what I'm getting, right? You kind of see the part that is gonna move, right? But obviously it's just gonna be visual. So the next thing you want to do is very simple. You want to move this into the door, right? So I'm gonna move the hinge somewhere there, and I'm gonna move this guy to the door side somewhere there, and move it, that one inside as well somewhere there, And let's take both of those parts and move it somewhere here. All right, so to check that better, as you can see, we are kind of, you know, flushing with the door, that's perfectly fine, right? So this is our hinge, this is perfectly fine. Now what we can do now is we can duplicate this. So go to the front view, and let's just say we're gonna change, click, hold, click that there, and we're gonna add one on the top, right, as an instance. Doesn't really matter too much, and we're gonna add one in the middle somewhere there, right, as an instance. And honestly, what I would do is I would go to the top view and select this guy and collapse, right? Select this, all of these guys, and collapse. So as you know, maybe you don't know, but collapsed objects into one improves the performance of your 3ds Max. If you're gonna have 1 million objects that are not collapsed into one objects, the scene, the viewport is gonna work a lot slower than those million objects collapsed into one, right? It's just how it works. I don't have the magic word why does it do that, but it just processes it better. So collapse selected, there we go. All right, so we have all of those 3 parts collapsed, those 3 parts collapsed, and these guys are collapsed as well, right? So the next thing you want to do, right? So you have your door with the hinges and everything, right? So I'm just gonna choose maybe default shading for now. So I'm gonna add a wireframe of, I don't know, let's choose blue. For the hinges, let's choose yellow. And for the handle, let's choose wireframe color, I don't know, maybe something like a purple color. It doesn't really matter. All right, so we have our door, and the next thing you want to do is you want to add a dummy, a gizmo dummy. So I'm gonna go to helpers. I'm gonna create a dummy. I'm literally gonna just drag up like this, right? And the next thing I want to do is I want to centralize this to this guy here, and somewhere in the middle there. I don't have really a line there because I don't have a line there, but let's just say, yeah, I'm roughly in the middle. That's fine. So literally in the center, or the best thing is to do is to click align, bam, because this part is separate from those guys. So I'm just gonna align to these guys, and I don't want really to use the Z axis. I want it to be on the bottom, right? So this is my dummy, right? And I can increase in size. I don't really care, just, you know, for you to see. There you go. So that is the dummy. So the dummy now doesn't really work. It doesn't do anything, right? So next, what you need to do is very important. So you're gonna have to pick, there's a couple of ways how you can do this, right? But I think I'm gonna show you a very simple way, a simpler way, because you can link to the object and that object can link to the other object, blah, 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 or you can link all the objects to one object, right? It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna show you a very straightforward result, so to say. So I'm gonna click the handle, I'm gonna click, so I'm gonna click the handle, the doors, so 2 handles, 1 door, and I'm gonna click on this guy with Control Select, right? So what I have selected, everything that's gonna move, I have selected. So see what I mean? So this hinge is gonna be static, this is gonna be static. Well, it will look like it's moving, but actually it's not moving. So all of this is gonna be moving, right? So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna group it. I'm gonna group it as, it doesn't really matter the name because you're gonna be opening the group, editing, etc, etc. It doesn't, you know, don't think too much. So press OK. So we have a grouped door, as you can see here, with all the moving parts, right? The next thing you want to do is select the link tool, right? And drag from the door, drag to, when that white icon appears, as you can see, arrow icon, bam, release it, right? And then right click, sorry, not right click, select the move tool, go to perspective mode. So what happened now? Basically what you did is you linked the door that's gonna move to the dummy, right? So I'm gonna select the dummy now because this is gonna be the mother point, so to say. And I'm gonna go to rotation tool, and now look what's gonna happen. I can move the door, right? With all the handles, etc., right? Pretty cool, right? But this is not enough, okay? Because this is still, you know, you're not gonna align the door perfectly unless you type something like every, I don't know, every 5 degrees, right, on the dummy. So for example, if I'm gonna click here and right click 5 degrees, right, that makes sense. If I will activate this and bam 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 bam, I will always go to the, you know, to the nice, to that middle location, right? I'm not gonna go in, you know, it's always gonna be, if I'm gonna go to the top view, it's always gonna be straight, as you can see here, right? So this can work, but you have to know exactly how many, you know, you can go, you know, in increments, but don't rotate without it, just because, you know, it's going to be hard for you to get the same location, center location. So how to make this more rigged is basically go here into motion, you go to assign controller, you go to rotation, you go to Z, right? And you press assign controller and float limit, press OK. And now put here 0 and put here 0, right? So what's happening now? I cannot move at all. So I'm gonna choose, so play around with this, because sometimes this value works and this doesn't, and sometimes vice versa, it depends. So I'm gonna put 80 degrees, right? So now let's see where it's gonna move. So 80 degrees I cannot open, it's moving that 80 degrees, right? So which is wrong. I want to use 0 point as this point and minus 80, so it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna move in another direction according to Max. So I'm just gonna move, so I can disable this now because I don't care. The 0 point is always gonna be, so I'm moving, look, I'm rotating, the door is not really rotating around, right? So I'm always stopping in the correct orientation, right? And you can increase this number by, I don't know, minus 140, bam. So leave it as 0, this is your 0 point, this is your minus 40, 140. I think that's more than enough, right? So you can open it like that. So, you know, you can even put, I don't know, 160. So bam. Okay, so something like that. So there you go, bam, 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 bam. And as you can see, the hinge, look at the hinge, it's moving with the door, as you can see, right? Bam, 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 bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so that is it, guys. So you close this. Whatever you want to do is literally, so you made a group for a door, and now you're grouping everything together again, right? Bam, there you go. That's your door. Move it anywhere you want, place it anywhere you want. I'm going to show you how to edit it, right? So whenever you want to edit it and open it, what you're going to do is group, open recursively. It's going to open everything. Or you can, I don't know how many groups are you going to have, but let's just say, right, group recursively, it works every time because this dummy knows what is linked to it. So just rotate it, bam, 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 doesn't matter, right? So select all again, close, that's it, right? Or you open one time, it depends how many groups you have in a group. So you can use it like this and then close the group, right? Blah, blah, blah. Now, very important, if you want to extend the door or make it, you know, wider or shorter, doesn't matter, right? What you do is basically open, you always close the door, always keep the doors closed, right? So you cannot apply an editable poly modifier on top of this with the dummy. You have to open the group recursively, right? So open all of the groups, you select only the right bit. So let's just say, you know, you have like 80 centimeters of a gap in the door frame, so you need to make the door narrower, right? So I'm just gonna click this, right? So I'm selecting literally everything that is on the right side. I don't really care for the left side, I care only about the right side with the door lock. So I'm gonna apply editable poly, I'm gonna take the vertices and I'm gonna, you know, just select all the vertices there. I'm just gonna drag it like this, for example, or even like this, right? It doesn't really matter. next thing I do is I close everything again, right? So that is my door. So the next thing, open. If I'm gonna select this, bam, 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 right? So again, same thing. I'm gonna go to the top view and I'm gonna select all of this. I'm gonna use the same modifier. I'm just gonna extend it, let's just say that way, right? Bam, 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 bam. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna click this, bam, right? So everything is working accordingly. It's just, you know, don't try to mess it up too much. The same thing for the height, right? So you can select all of that, right? You can apply another poly, bam, you can extend it. You can do whatever you want with this door, right? So I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna select that guy, bam. Sorry, just gonna select all of those. Another modifier, and always, you know, just collapse the modifier. You don't really need to have these modifiers on the top. So yes, and just close the group, bam. All right, so you can open again, and you can move the doors in any way you want, right? So this is how you prepare a door. So for example, a very simple example. So whenever you model your doors, and those doors are going to be reused, let's just say, I don't know, 20 times in a row, right? Save that asset and you're going to have a door. You can always edit this door in any way you want. You can add, I think you will model a door with all the hinges, with all the locks, etc., you know, and apply this approach, and you're going to have a good rig door that you can, you know, reuse in any way you want. And for example, if you have same thing, if you have a thicker wall, what you do is basically go to the top view, and you're not editing the door itself, but you're just editing the frame, right? So sometimes you're gonna have a wall which is 20 centimeters thick. So you're just gonna extend this guy. That's it. You're just gonna extend that guy. That's it. And you're gonna close the group back again, right? So I think that's enough for this tutorial. I think you kind of gonna get a good understanding of how to work with a door, how to rig it, how to model it in a very actually simple way. And the quality of the door also is gonna be, you know, decent enough to work with. All right. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.